Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Today I'm going to be getting the opportunity to ask Shumi the questions. He's been out riding cool motorcycles. The one we're going to talk about right up front is a big name.
Yeah, so I just returned from Jaipur from Hero's R&D facility, which they call CIT, and the Harley-Davidson X440. Just to set context, we got about an hour to ride the motorcycle.
Okay.
Inside the facility, we didn't leave the facility at all. So I don't really have a way of anything but extrapolating what I felt there into what you might feel on the street. So the road test review will be a crucial element of what we do. We rode it on the high-speed track, which is where you work out more or less the acceleration, vibration, and those kind of things, and the handling track, which Hero's handling track is actually quite good because
We saw the photo of you like leaned over like real hard.
yeah, no, the fun part about, I mean, I did enjoy that, no doubt. But the real fun part about the handling track is that unlike a race track, it's designed to interrupt a chassis and not let it flow. And then the engineer's job becomes to figure out how to get flow going anyway.
Right.
So when Bajaj built the Chakan track out, if you remember back in the day, the handling of the motorcycles just went up immediately because they had a facility that would reveal the flaws early. And I think Hero is now getting the full benefit of that because this facility now allows them to really explore the frame. And we're talking about X440 and we're already talking about cornering. So think about what
I was
happened.
just thinking, we're talking about Harley and handling. This is feeling a bit strange right up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see the HD 440X, X440 story. H stands for handling and D stands for design. I think these are the two big things that we're going to discuss anyway. Right? Where would you like to begin?
Both are in a positive light. Where would you like to start? The good or the bad? Because
That's the fun part, right? So I'm going to say that there are lots of that we have to discuss the design a lot. So I'm saying that let's leave that for later. Let's cover the basics and then come back to it because that's the juiciest part of the discussion as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, really? No, actually, for me, I'd like to. I mean, the juicy. I think that part is clear cut for me. The design part of it is because I've come away.
Oh, it's clear cut for you. Please explain.
Yeah. No. For me, it's just. I mean, what I've understood is they have made XR references in the design.
They have. They claim to, yes.
I think my analysis now. This is third party sitting here doing not even having seen the bike up close. Is like I think what it missed out on was the rear. The rear is too big because it had to be practical, right? For the pillion seat.
Sure.
If the rear was scaled down, if it was smaller, then it would strike that XR look.
Right.
Right now, it's seeming like the front half is nice, the tank design and all of it, but the rear just seems out of proportion to that to get the XR look. That's my perspective on it.
I think we'll come back to design.
All right.
Let's start at the very beginning.
But okay, chal, since we've started with design.
No, we'll come back to design. I'm telling you, that's the juiciest part of this whole discussion.
Okay, cool. So what's it like to ride?
So, Hero and Harley-Davidson worked together on this project for...
Okay. Sorry, cutting you off even before that. Chinese or no?
So here's the thing, right? We got a couple of comments when we asked a post on our YouTube community and Instagram and Twitter, etc., saying if you have questions about the Harley, let us know.
Right.
And we got a couple of people who said, not a lot, but a couple of people who said, why didn't they just do the X350 instead? Right? First of all, I think the idea of rebranding a twin-cylinder Benelli and trying to sell it here in India is just a terrible idea. I mean, if I were Harley-Davidson, I would be cringing at the idea. I already cringe at the fact that Harley-Davidson is willing to do this in China. I think for the company as a direction, it either is a sign of desperation saying nothing else is working, we might as well try it. Or worse, they are willing to abdicate some of the core principles of Harley-Davidson and say, yeah, it's okay, rebrand that Chinese thing, we'll be fine. I think it's a terrible move. So I'm going to assume it's a desperate time, right? For Hero and Harley-Davidson to work together instead, I think is a far superior way to do it in the sense that that means they understand that India is the world's largest two-wheeler market, etc., etc. That Harley-Davidson's previous strategy has clearly not worked, where there are only CBUs and there was a very average motorcycle in the Street 750 and the Street 500 never came, etc. All of those adventures didn't play out. And obviously, the new management is changing things and India's fully owned subsidiary was axed at that point. So what do you do next? So the obvious and...
How would you say the China play versus the India play is different?
I don't think they're different in strategy terms. You created a firewalled motorcycle that stays within China. In China, you took the option of saying, what's a good Chinese bike here or that one? Okay, let's design that. So is it a big difference from what the Benelli twin-cylinder TNT 300 kind of motorcycle? It's not. Even the front disc brakes are the same. And twin petal rotors on a Harley-Davidson. Makes no sense. But at least for India, I think they did the right thing, which is what I would have expected them to do in China, whereas to go up to QJ and say, okay, look, we want to build a Harley-Davidson, we want to work with you. Can we do something from zero and create a proper Harley-Davidson experience? We did in the TNT 300. Think about it. If you close your eyes, imagine riding a TNT 300. Does a Harley-Davidson even remotely pop into your mind? But the Hero Harley-Davidson X440 does feel like a Harley-Davidson. I think that to me is a monumental achievement.
So you call it an HHD?
Yeah. I mean, there were people in our comments calling it the Hero Davidson.
Coming to that.
But I think that's a little. But I think that's a little too snarky because, in all honesty, this bike is not perfect. But what they've achieved with it, I think, is admirable. Okay, Rajiv in his.
But why is Hero Davidson snarky?
Because I think it is meant as a snark. It is not meant as an appreciative comment.
Really? Yeah. I would have just thought that because they've co-developed it, it's like okay,
no, I don't
it's
think
fitting
so.
in.
I think I'm surprised nobody called it a Harley-Davidson yet.
Hardly.
Right? No, so you have to think about the challenge here, right? Harley-Davidson's challenge is they don't know a way that Indian market will respond to Harley-Davidson because the way our price is structured, the way we expect our motorcycles to be, and they're a big V-twin, expensive American. None of these things are natural fits to the Indian market, so they had to try something. On the flip side, Hero is the largest manufacturer in the world, but in the Indian partnership scenario, they're the ones that have operated without partnerships for the longest time.
Correct.
The Honda thing was a JV. They exited that. Eric Buell was a misadventure of epic proportions. That was a terrible idea, right? Thankfully, they didn't kill off the Charisma name in the process. They managed to sort of salvage something.
That was the big outsized impact of that partnership.
Exactly. So now they're working with Harley-Davidson, which is good because it means Hero's CIT, which is a very large R&D facility with a lot of equipment, engineers, international teams, etc. They can figure out how Harley-Davidson would approach product design and learn something from that. But they also get a platform that they can use for themselves and offer to Harley-Davidson and then create maybe divergent products that do different things. So one of the things that they're really proud of, and I think justifiably, is the fact that they took a single and they said, how do we approximate the sound and feel of a Harley-Davidson from this?
I find that so much bunkum, man. Tell me.
It's true. They managed.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
No way.
Right. So we're standing at the high-speed test track, and
because this is taking me back to the Highness, where the conversation started with the exhaust note, right?
See, look, the Highness lacks class.
What do you mean by class? Let's class off.
When a Highness goes by, I think, wow, that sounds terrible.
Oh, you mean the exhaust note?
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
But when the Harley-Davidson X440 goes by,
right,
you're not going to be very impressed with the sound in the sense of it's not loud, it's not offensive. It sounds like
really?
Yeah, it sounds like a loud-ish, interesting single.
Oh, I like that.
But when it's in the helmet, it sounds like a V-twin.
No way.
Wow, how they managed it is why the exhaust is so ugly.
Oh no.
Because I asked. Because there were people looking at the exhaust and it catches your attention because it's fairly large and it's this matte black conical cylinder kind of shape and it has no features at all. So it looks like they forgot to design the exterior of that exhaust. And I think that they could have done something with it. I mean, think about it. It's an exhaust on a Harley-Davidson without a bar and shield stamped on it. Right. So I counted, there's about 1400 bar and shields on the motorcycle, the middle model, because the background to the logos is bar and shields in a pattern. You put 1500 logos in, but didn't put a single one in the exhaust. I think somebody got lazy on the last day.
I'm going to set a little bit of context, right? Now, the thing is, in this entire category, everybody's been chasing Royal Enfield, and which has been known for the thump. So even the Highness was launched. I was not at the launch, and Shumi's told me about it, that, the presentation started with the conversation of how they wanted to get the right exhaust note. And trust me, that's one of the motorcycles that I have wanted to stop riding because the exhaust was too loud. It got annoying after a point for me, which was worrying me when this happened.
Can I make a statement here? Everybody's talking about how Royal Enfield is so going to be threatened by the X440 and the Speed 400s. I'm going to say spare a thought for Java, ESD and the CB350, man. They didn't do much anyway.
Right.
And now you've got 3 top-of-the-mind brands sitting on top competing with each other. It's over.
Okay, back to the exhaust note.
Right.
So inside the helmet sounds awesome.
Inside the helmet, it actually reminds you of what a V-twin is supposed to sound like, including when you close the throttle. You know how the V-twin trails off?
Like...
Yeah, so that burble is there.
Oh, wow.
And I'm amazed that they pulled that off. I don't know how critical it is to your riding experience, but it's the Harley-Davidson potato experience. There are potatoes in here, small potatoes, but there are definitely potatoes in there.
So that small, that boxy collector box is doing a job.
So the exhaust as a unit, the header pipe, the collector box, and the end can, they're not impressive visually. But I was told categorically that we had the choice of making it impressive visually or making it sound right, and we've decided to choose the sound. All I'm saying is maybe it needn't have been so bare. Maybe a heat shield, even if it didn't do anything because it's a double-walled exhaust or whatever, maybe a heat shield would have added visually some character to that exhaust, which currently just looks like a cone.
Okay, talking about this aspect, okay, we've not gotten to riding very much yet, but we've gotten to an interesting thing: quality. You know, what does it feel like? Because visually, it's not looking.
So we'll come back to design, quality, build, finish together.
Okay,
right,
fine.
right. So let's talk about riding. So on the high-speed track, what I discovered, first thing I noticed is that there are bar vibes.
Okay.
So your hands are vibrating a little bit as you ride it.
But at what kind of speeds?
But that's the thing. By the second lap, I forgot that there were bar vibes. So when I started getting used to the motorcycle, I realized that it is genuinely like a Harley-Davidson in the sense at 6,000 RPM, which is, hey, game over, please change your gear.
Okay.
It doesn't want you to do anything more than 5,000 RPM. It's very, very nice off the bottom. It pulls hard.
that's awesome.
It pulls reasonably well. Peak torque happens at 4,000 RPM later. It's done.
So functionally, it's doing what you would expect it to do.
Absolutely.
And that's a great riding experience as well.
Absolutely.
That's
So-
chill, laid back.
Correct. So I went in there and started to rev the motorcycle out. And in the GoPro footage, it sounds like the engine's really crying for mercy. It's not that bad.
Okay.
But it very, very desperately and clearly tells you that saying 5,000, you don't need more than this. And you stick to 5,000, it'll do 110 reasonably smoothly, beyond which there are some amount of peg vibrations. Handlebar vibrations. So if you're riding out on the highway, it will do what all of the other 350, 400cc motorcycles do on the market today, without needing all of that revs and DOHC and 4-valve and all of this. It manages.
So what's the top speed that you managed to hit?
So I saw 138 on the speedometer, but I was down on the tank, prone, holding, and saturated speed. So it's not a
So
reasonable.
cruise speed, roughly. I know it was all within
110 or below, I think.
110 or below.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
That's good enough to me, right? The gearbox is pretty slick, and you go up and down the gearbox pretty easily. It feels so natural for you to ride.
So this will be an easy bike to ride,
Super easy.
right?
Super easy, because that's what
lovely.
I was saying. I forgot that there was a sixth. And it occurred to me a lap later that there was a sixth, because I wasn't looking down.
You were in Rajasthan, the perfect place to take it out on the roads, I wish.
They weren't registered. So the number plate said HD440X or whatever. And I don't think the cops would take to that very well. So we didn't leave the facility. But so once we did the high-speed loop for half an hour, you begin to realize that this motorcycle genuinely is non-Harley-Davidson in the sense it doesn't have that lumbering light ride quality. It doesn't turn into the corners slowly on any of these things. It feels reasonably natural. But the engine feels like the Harley-Davidson experience.
Yeah, so that's a lot of torque at low revs.
A lot of torque at low revs. The revs don't rise super fast.
Okay.
The gearbox is efficient, but you don't need to do a lot with it. So you can get to third, fourth, fifth and not bother about it anymore. So that part of the experience, how a Harley-Davidson is supposed to feel, yes, they've got it.
Awesome.
When you go to the handling track, you discover that they've not made the mistake of making it slow steering and heavy in nature. Just because it's a Harley-Davidson either. They've been, I think, pretty smart about it. So it handles really, really well. So 18-inch front wheel does not get in its way. I was trail braking into a couple of the corners just to see how much it would upset the motorcycle, and it basically says, yeah, that's fine. It's not a stress point at all. We didn't have a chance to really evaluate ride quality, but I didn't come off the bike thinking that, wow, this is super stiff or super plush.
And what are the ergos like? Is it like more street or?
Yeah, you sit more or less like a normal street bike.
Okay.
The tank is wider than you think. So you do have a sense of, I'm sitting on a substantial motorcycle.
So does it, it's large in terms of fuel capacity as well?
I don't remember what the fuel capacity is offhand, but I know that they designed the tank to be a substantial part of the volume of the motorcycle. It's also a reason for the weight, which we'll come to in the design. We'll talk about why it's 191 kilos. But it feels like you're on a large motorcycle. It does not feel like you're on a premium motorcycle necessarily, which is what we're coming to next. But it does feel like you're sitting on something substantial.
I thought I was asking the questions, but okay.
Right? So when you lean into a corner, it feels natural. Because it's a Harley-Davidson, pegs are pretty low, so you grind them pretty early. But when you grind them, you don't feel like something's about to happen. You feel like this is what's supposed to happen next. So I didn't know this, but I think Harley-Davidson later showed me footage where I was scraping the exhaust apart from the pegs itself. And I'm sure other journalists reach that place pretty simply because it is that kind of confident. Why I'm saying ride quality is going to be super nice is because there were a couple of places where you make a left to right transition and there is a phase in the middle of the transition where the bike sort of feels loose and then it settles into a stable position again. If it didn't feel that loose in the middle, I would have assumed this is a very stiff setup. But if you notice the design, you see that straight line at the back, and everybody's been complaining about how the huge gap between the tire and the fender and all that. When you sit down, that gap more or less disappears. And I'm 84 kilos in gear, and there were lighter people than me for whom also the gap disappeared, which means that the rear suspension is not very stiff and there's a lot of sag in that system. So when you see the bikes in pictures, you'll see this idiotically large gap that looks unsightly. But when you sit down on it, it doesn't look so bad anymore. Right? Okay. So I'm expecting this to have
That is strange.
Yeah, so I do expect it to have it reasonably good ride quality. Would I call it sophisticated? I don't think so. I don't think it'll be sophisticated, but I think it'll be good.
Is it pillion friendly?
I
know you didn't have much time.
Yeah, I'm going to say let's wait and watch, because to me, when a pillion sits down, the bike will become like this. Then it's a matter of how much the preload resets the angle. So we'll figure this part out. But there is no obvious reason why it would not be pillion friendly. But
the seat is large.
Yeah, I don't see a physical issue with it. Okay. I'm just saying, what will the suspension do once you put that much load on it? We'll see if it was stiffer, then we know if a pillion sits down, it'll get
more from
better.
Ergonomics or space.
Ergonomics is fine. I don't think that's a challenge. It is the seat itself might be a challenge because they've chosen soft foam. And in my experience, soft foam is very good for 20 kilometers and commuting. But
so you see this as a bike people will go touring on?
I think they should.
Oh, nice.
I think that everything in the 350cc class by default should have touring ability, because if the motorcyclist is not going to take the motorcycle and explore the world outside, why are you buying a 400 at all? I mean, just stick to your 110cc bike. I mean, that's the whole point, right? To be able to have the latitude to go out and do stuff. So to me, I would just say default. Classic 350 will tour, Meteor 350 will tour, Hunter 350 should have toured, but it's not so great at it. All the 650s from Royal Enfield should tour, Harley-Davidson 440 should tour, all the ADVs should tour. That's what they should do.
Do they have any accessories on offer with this for touring?
Yeah, so they are building out an accessory list. They didn't tell us what all is on that list. We got an indication, but the bikes we rode, if you look at the footage and the pictures or whatever, there is a bash plate underneath, which is an accessory bash plate. I know for sure that they're going to have bar and mirrors also. So I know that there is 15-20 accessories odd that are going to be
So they'll
created.
have luggage and stuff like that, likely to have?
I think so, but I don't think it is critical for Harley-Davidson to make the luggage, because if you look at how Harley-Davidson does their international luggage, it is expensive, sometimes functional, but aftermarket brands just do it better anyway.
I think for people buying one of these, it's like the first thing, right? What all do I need, right?
Yeah, so get over it. You don't need anything. Via Terra will make you far better luggage for a lot less money. Rhinox will do a similar job. If you do want to spend Harley-Davidson brand kind of money, buy Kriegas instead, which will last you a lifetime. You'll get bored of it before they break.
I use bungees and backpacks.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, I would not get lost in the accessory game. I think it's a little bit of a waste of time.
Okay, so moving on to the next bit, the Harley lifestyle. How is this going to fit in?
I don't know that it will. Look, they created a sandbox around this bike because it only comes to India. And we know that Indian motorcyclists haven't, as a group, evolved to accept you are a motorcyclist, I am a motorcyclist, so we are brothers. We still have that thing of saying, oh, you may be my brother, let me find out what you ride first. Oh, you have a 300. You know, I have a 1200. We still draw that line in the middle. So I'm not sure that, I'm pretty sure that these X440 guys will become hog members if they pay the membership fee or whatever. Right. And they should, in theory, have access to the same privileges, etc. But will a guy riding a Fat Boy or a Glide of some sort, will he be say, hey, you got the X440? I mean, you're my brother? No, I think culturally we are not in that space yet. I think another 3, 4, 5 years, if people watch MotorInc a lot and understand what we're trying to say, which is we are all together in this, we are motorcyclists, right? I think there's a chance it'll become an easier experience for small bike guys. But would I say that we are there today? No, I don't think we are.
And functionally saying that, that can go much faster and this is slower. I think when you're traveling together, it's not going to be that big a difference.
No, your friends will wait for you. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
we discussed this, I think, in one of the podcasts also, where we said the whole point is not that you're slow. The point is that if you get there first, you'll wait for me. And if I get there last, you'll be waiting for me. And I mean, you play that game out, right? It's how friends work. Yeah. So, let's get to the design. We haven't talked about the design.
I'm curious.
Rajiv Bajaj said in the Speed 400 context that 80% of the man-hours put on the Speed project was by Bajaj and 20% was put by Triumph. Hero and Harley-Davidson haven't given us a clear split of who did what. I believe that Milwaukee did a large part of the design finalization and saying, yeah, this is good, let's do this. And then Hero did a lot of the engineering, execution, validation, verification, and all of that. So unfortunately, that's not worked out too well for the X440, right? Does it look like a Harley-Davidson? Yes. Are there issues like you pointed out that the rear is disproportionate? Yes. It's 191 kilos because it's all metal. So the rear fender, it's that large, part A. Part B, it's a structural member. There's no subframe. That thing is carrying the pillion's weight.
The fender?
Yeah. So you've got two structural elements to which the fender is bolted as a stress member, right?
Okay.
So that's how the subframe is organized.
Oh,
so if you have
the seat is sitting on the fender actually.
Yeah. And the fender effectively bolts to the back of the trellis frame, right? So from there till there is one large metal unit. Both the side panels are fully metal and they're this big.
I'm kind of impressed as well.
Yeah. And then the tank is this big. And then the front fender is metal too. So yeah, 191 kilos.
Wow.
Right? But they've built it all in metal. But if you look at the design closely, the space behind your thighs, when you sit on the motorcycle, when you grip it, so the back of the tank flowing into the top of the side panel, it's almost completely unresolved. It hides behind your knees. So when you're sitting on the motorcycle, it doesn't look too bad. But when it's standing there, you can see that that surface is a surface. It doesn't do much. So is this going to be a motorcycle you look at and saying, wow, that is impressive? No. Yeah, you're not going to say that. If are you going to look at this motorcycle and say, holy crap, that's exactly what Harley-Davidson represents to me, whether you're coming from the Sportster or the XR series or the Fat Boy or the Glides? No, you're not going to do it. Does it approximate those things? Yes. And the closer you get to the bike, the worse the story gets because the finish levels on this bike are not good.
Okay, so that was going to be one of the queries for me because with Hero, we've had several complaints coming in about quality with the X-Pulse. Right. So, and when you look at a motorcycle like that, and especially considering it's a Harley-Davidson, you think, does it feel solid, right?
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. So the build quality, I don't have an issue with. I don't think that this motorcycle is going to break down. I don't feel like there is a impending mechanical flaw that will end the ride. No, I don't feel like that. But I was thinking about it. If you look at the Harley-Davidson international range also, their cheaper Harley-Davidsons are never as well finished as the really expensive ones. So what Triumph has done, what they've learned over the last 5 years, I think, is they started tucking the wiring in and making the bigger parts stand out. And it gives that motorcycle that sense of, oh, wow, this is expensive. Right? KTMs don't do that well. The Husqvarna does it even worse than the KTM, etc., etc., etc. The Harley-Davidson is still before that. So wiring is all over the place. Vikrant, our friend from Bike Wale, he was objecting to the structural member that goes across the engine head. And he's like, but I want to look at the engine and there is a structural member in the middle of it. I mean, who thought that was a good idea? But when you look that close and you realize that the pivot plate has a completely different finish from the tubes that emerge from it. So this looks like a brushed, and not like a positively brushed, artistic brushed. It looks like mold, but the tubes are glossy black paint. So it's a little hodgepodge for me. From far out, it doesn't look too bad, but it's not a really impressive design on that sense. When you get closer, I don't think that you will think of this as a poorly made motorcycle, but I think you will think that this could have been finished a heck of a lot better.
So, I mean, Harleys have always been like eye candy. This is not eye candy.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
Like, I remember even the first time when Harleys came to India and they do that, which I think is, I don't know, that obsession with skulls and bones and all of that stuff. Like, it didn't make sense to me, but it was done beautifully. You looked at it and you thought, man, that is art.
So that's it. So if you think about it, the Triumph conversation started by, wow, that's a great looking machine.
Right.
And we'll hear the rest of the conversation later as to whether it is a machine that goes as well as it looks. I remember showing up for the launch where we'd seen some of the pictures because Harley-Davidson did this odd campaign of showing super well shot spy pics, right? But okay, whatever the intent was. Who commented on that and saying, man, that is an awesome looking bike? I didn't see a single one. And I didn't see that at the launch either. The excitement started after we rode the bike. To me, the X440's challenge is go to the showroom and take a test ride. You'll have a more impressive experience because the other thing about this motorcycle, which Harley-Davidson and Hero know, is it doesn't photograph well at all.
You know what I'm really happy about is they made a good motorcycle. That's the great part.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always happy to know that it's fun to ride. Even it may not look good, but the point is once you get on the motorcycle and if you choose to opt for this X440, once you're in the saddle, how it looks and all is not going to matter. It's how it
you're going to have a good time for sure.
That's awesome.
Right? So there's two things that we still haven't, we've left to discuss. One is Harley-Davidson is doing an interesting experiment here by saying Hero premium dealers will be able to sell and service the Harley-Davidson, apart from the Harley-Davidson dealers in service. I think it's a pure logistics thing. There are 13 Harley-Davidson dealers, and there are 13 plus, there are 33 service places, including these 13 dealers today. So that's a really small distribution network. So if you're going to sell a mass market volume premium product, it's not going to work. So what they're doing is they're rolling out the Hero premium dealers. Some of them will be all premium, some of them will be premium section in a current dealer situation. I believe Hero's putting a lot of effort into training this dealership staff for interpersonal and the service guys for Hero's bikes.
Getting the right experience.
Yeah, because to me, the premium experience is about you're treated like a premium customer. Otherwise, it just doesn't add up.
So which brings me to one question that I wanted to ask. If they're going to open specific premium brand outlets, what else will come?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question, because this is the question I had when the Extreme 160 R4 valve was also being shown, which is also going to go into the premium network. And obviously, Hero has a plan for more premium machines to come, some of which we know of, right? We know that the ADV is somewhere out there. I believe there is a delay on that project, so I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I know that that bike is in the works. The Charisma 213 is obviously going to be in there. The Extreme is already in there. I'm assuming some of these scooters possibly could be premium scooter. Maybe the Zoom will fit into that range. I don't know. But the Harley-Davidson will also go and sit in there. And so I'm going to assume that Hero is going to use the platform that they built, from which the X440 has emerged, in versions, variations, roles, capabilities, prices, to build their own machines also. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take a bet that a version of the 440's engine is probably what's going to show up on the ADV. Now on an ADV, a 6000 redline, 4000 torque doesn't make any sense.
So what could be the next thing? Any idea on that?
See, this engine is a pretty flexible engine if you think about it, right? So could they go all the way to a hardcore chrome cruiser? Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
What about a Pan America?
Of this engine, I don't know.
Because that's the easiest, I mean, the most popular segment to hit, right?
I don't know that I would take this engine into an ADV format, call it Pan America 400 or something, and then be excited about it.
So you're saying a cruiser would be a better bet than going the ADV route?
I would say Harley-Davidson needs to do traditional hardcore and then do the exploration later. I think one of the issues is, I was thinking about, what if the 440 was an actual cruiser first?
What if it was a proper XR400?
XR400 is still too remote for Indians, because see, if I make it look like a street bike, why would you buy a Harley-Davidson? There are other street bikes out there with a greater reputation of being greater street.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? So what do we identify Harley-Davidson as? Arnold Schwarzenegger on a fat boy. Smaller market than like a nakedish retro? Yes. But a more natural market for Harley-Davidson to start from and then quickly fill out a range of other 440. Might, I don't know, seems to me like a more secure plan.
But this is just for India, so it has nothing to do with any of the other markets.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Will Hero say no to Harley-Davidson if they were said, can we take some bike from you and put them in other markets? They won't say no. But is there an active plan? Did Jochen Zeitz ever indicate that they're expecting this motorcycle to go elsewhere?
All right. So what would you want people to leave with when looking at the Harley-Davidson X400? X440.
So I'm going to say that the 2.29 lakh rupee base edition with the spoke wheels, he loves how it looks. But to me, the tube tires are, in 2023, there's just no reason to spend that kind of money. The top model has geofencing and all of this drama, which I don't even think the electric guys use that seriously. So the fact that you'd use it on a motorcycle to achieve any utility value, I don't think so. So to me, the middle model, which is 2.49, is the one to go for. It's got no functional differences from the top model. The alloys are the same, they're just not diamond cut. So it's a very, very small
There's
difference.
also those narrow strips.
So it doesn't matter. So to me, the middle model 2.49 is the one to go for if you're going to go for a Harley-Davidson X440. You do have the option of the Classic 350, the X440, and the Speed 400. Take test rides. Don't pre-book, sit and explore the internet, explore the world on these motorcycles, is what I'm going to say. Because the three motorcycles are all dramatically different in promise, feel, capability, and price. They are not interchangeable with each other.
Right.
So get over the idea that they have similar prices and they're rivals to each other, then they kill each other. I don't think so. I think they're very specific machines that talk to their own brand's values, to a specific kind of product that does a specific kind of job. You'll resonate with, to me, usually two of the three, not three of the three or one of the three. You'll find two that really take your fancy. Pick between those. don't get blinded by this.
Okay. If we don't, I'm going to ask one more question.
Sure.
You've spoken about how each one of them will have a different personality. A lot of people will reference this to the Classic. How will it be different from the Classic?
The Classic is Royal Enfield's old school. Cleaned up, refined and polished. Does it do a lot? No. What it does well.
Right.
The Harley-Davidson is Harley-Davidson's version of what Harley-Davidson Classic is. So it sounds like that, it goes like that, it does those things. In terms of cruising ability, I think the Harley-Davidson will have slightly more cruising ability than the Classic. That's what they're using the extra cubes for. But the finish on the Classic is superior to the Harley-Davidson. The price on the Classic is lower than the Harley-Davidson. Is the Harley-Davidson giving you any major additional advantage over the Classic in any functional way? Not really, right? But to me, I don't know that the British Classic and the American Classic are directly comparable, apples to each other.
Fantastic. And that's how it should be.
Yeah,
I mean, there are
exactly. So
choices.
to me, it's not a choice between the two. It's a choice of your taste over the two. Vishal has asked, the only thing that makes me annoyed about the X440 is the overall design. I thought it would look identical to the 350, the Chinese one. That to him is a great design. In terms of the X350's design, why I think people love it a little bit more is because it is more traditional Harley-Davidson XR kind of design. So it looks like a Harley-Davidson street naked. And I understand what he's saying. But would that be directly transplantable to an X440? Would that be a great idea for Harley-Davidson? I think it's a strategic call that they should have to make. But yes, the design isn't the greatest that we've ever seen. But the bike, fortunately, is actually quite nice. And what's my gut feel on how this motorcycle will age? Well, we only rode it for an hour, so it's actually not fair to say anything. But I would say that I didn't see any sign that this bike would have mechanical issues. It felt completely okay. Vikrant has asked on our YouTube, does it reciprocate the excitement of any Harley out there? I think in the way the engine behaves, yes. And the way they've tuned the handling and the braking and all of those things, I think yes. As we said in the entire discussion, looks, finish, build, you might have questions about, but when you ride this motorcycle, there will not be many questions like it. Also from YouTube, this is Manish Reddy. We need an answer for why Triumph and Harley 440 are partnering with our Indian manufacturers and sell them to us in the Indian market in an approachable price tag. What is going to be the after-sales concern? Why premium segment companies are looking to capture the market in a smart way? And as a customer and motorcycle enthusiast, it sounds amazing. The product is good and pricing is decent, but what is the point after all? Okay, there's no punctuation, which is why I read it out like that. But I basically, the answer to this is, Bajaj and KTM together have demonstrated that the idea of a scaled down India friendly in terms of price and engineering product does actually work in India. And then when you export it from here, it actually works outside as well. And obviously all the other companies realize that this is a strategic disadvantage if they don't do it. Right. What I should be focusing on is, as a rider, it gives me more options to pick from. Some of them will be great options, some of them will be okay options, and some of them will be terrible options. But we have options, and I think that's a good thing. At prices we can afford, with engineering for our conditions. So I don't see how this can go wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes sense as a business case and for us.
Okay, this is from Soham on our Instagram. Great pricing, but does that mean even cheaper Hero 400s? Yes. Addy does his thing from Instagram, says, does the bike stay true of Harleyism of producing more sound than horsepower? Yes, it does.
Oh.
It's a very powerful audio experience. Is it a really powerful horsepower experience? No, it's not. It's not designed to be. It's a big engine making 38 Newton meters of torque. The whole story of this motorcycle is torque. It's not horsepower.
But 27 feels 27?
Look, it delivers all its 27 without complaining, which is not what we can say for something else that we're going to talk about in the next episode of Motoring First.
All right.
Pratyusha Kumar Nayak on YouTube comments, comfort in comparison to the Royal Enfield. Okay, honestly, I can't comment on the comfort because we didn't really take it to a bad patch of road at all. Okay, Hero's facility has world-class tarmac. The pavement where they test the suspension wasn't available to us on that day. I'm going to guess that the Harley-Davidson will feel a little bit more comfortable than the Royal Enfield Classic. But remember that the Classic is already a pretty comfortable motorcycle in a very specific sort of mannerism. Right? So the mannerism will be different, but I don't think there's going to be a substantial difference.
I'm going to button here. There's going to be a big achievement if it is, because the Classic is actually very, very good.
Yeah, it is very good. Varun1036, also from our YouTube comments, comfortable cruising speed, 100-ish. Vibrations post 110, some. I did not feel like it was a deal breaker at all. It was just making you aware that now you are reaching the end of the spectrum. Can you push past it and continue to ride fast? I think you can. Will you enjoy it as much as sitting at a peaceful 100 and just sort of flowing along? No, I don't think you will. Maneuverability of the bike in city traffic, I see no reason why the bike will be difficult to deal with in traffic because the handling is really natural and effortless. Is there a sense of weight to it? Yes. Will you get used to that?
Is it raked out? Not very much.
Not very much, no. It feels more like a normal street bike than anything else, honestly. And the 18-inch wheel doesn't give it a I only want to go straight feeling at all. So they've got that part done. In fact, credit where it's due, if you look at the suspension setups and handling setups coming out, Hero's consistently done some of the better setups over the last 3 or 4 years.
They've done very good chassis and suspension for sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for the Harley X440 conversation with Shumi. This was MotorInc First. See you on the next one.
And if you have any other comments you'd like to leave, use the comment section.